Hello, good evening, and welcome to Monkeys with Fire. How's everybody doing tonight? Hope you're all well. So then, we're going to continue our exploration of two brand new books for Dreams and Machines. And this evening we're going to be taking a look at Echoes of an Ancient Enemy, the first campaign book for Dreams and Machines. This is of course from Modiphius Entertainment, and our thanks to them for providing books for us to take a look at this evening. Now, of course, with this being a campaign book, there are going to be spoilers potentially as we go through. So if you are intending to play the game, then you might want to just stay for a little bit, listen to the introduction, get an idea of what this adventure is about, but then tap out once we start going into the meat of the adventure. You don't want anything spoilt for you. So I will be throwing up the spoiler sign when we do hit upon that section, so be aware of that. All right then, let's jump on in then. So, here we go. This is Dreams and Machines, Echoes of an Ancient Enemy. Let's take a look. Wow, there's quite a lot to read here. So, all is not well on the distant world of Evera Prime. In Echoes of an Ancient Enemy, the first full campaign book expansion for Dreams and Machines, Games Masters lead their players on a sprawling, three-part campaign shrouded in secrets and mystery. Across the book's 3 acts, the Thralls become a powerful threat, bursting forth from their homes under the ground for reasons the players must uncover. Whilst untangling threads, the Dark City continues to grow in power. More and more Thralls than ever before heed its sinister call, but for what purpose, and do they truly do so of their own free will? To take your players on a gripping and exciting adventure as they travel from New Mossgrove, through Regis Castile, and into the brand new region of Emerta Velo, as they try to uncover the truth behind the strange goings-on plaguing their homeland. Bring them face to face with colossal, destructive mechs overloaded with Dark City code. Guide them through Emerta, the City of Sighs, a massive, sprawling metropolis where mystery and adventure await any brave enough to seek it out. Help them discover an untouched Zeta core hidden within Queen, Pasfis? I can't say her name, and the Queen's lair, and what lurks within. Finally, let them uncover the secrets behind just what is driving the Thralls into the embrace of a Dark City, and why they are fleeing the Day of Doom. Wow, that's quite an intro. there's a lot to uncover in this book. So it's 176 pages filled with everything Games Masters need to take their players from their familiar stomping grounds of New Mossgrove to the sprawling megacity of Emerta. A host of new enemies, monsters, and other non-player characters, and 12 brand new adventures across 3 chapters that can be run as a massive concurrent campaign or broken up and inserted into your own ongoing adventures. Alright, of course it does require the Dreams and Machines Player Guide and the Dreams and Machines Games Master Guide. I do have the Games Master Guide just here because I thought that would be quite useful. Alright, let us have a quick look at the beginning here. I always do appreciate the page that all Modiphius books seem to feature, which is a brief overview of what each of the chapters contain. I always find that really useful to be able to find what I'm looking for, and to get a bit of an idea of what is coming up. So what do we have? Chapter 1 is the introduction. This section dives back into the world of Evera Prime as Carrie comes face to face with a real-life Waker. So this is, I think this is the little ongoing story that is in the Player's Guide and the Games Master's Guide about this character, isn't it? So this seems to be a motif that they are going through various books. Chapter 2, Campaign Setup, provides Games Masters some guidance and tools to use when running the campaign. Then Chapter 3 is Part 1, What Lies Beneath. As the Thralls raids increase against the people of Regis Castile, player characters are enlisted to try and quell the threat, but more is going on than first meets the eye. Part 2, The Untamed Country. With the city of Emerta in their sights, the player characters continue their journey through the region of Emerta Velo towards their goal. And then Part 3, The Peace of Emerta. Ancient powers and forgotten enemies stir as the player characters come face to face with a shocking truth that threatens to rewrite history. Alright. That's quite a bit of a tease there. And we have some nice artwork. I always do appreciate the artwork in these books. Anything visual. See, that's the great thing about the Dreams of Machines setting, is that it is relatively unique. And so visuals like this help you picture this new world and give your players something to sort of latch onto. So, bit of an introduction, and then as we said, we have this ongoing story with Carrie meeting a Waker, which of course is one of the great machines that has been slumbering for hundreds of years. So it's just a little introduction, isn't it? A little bit of a narrative. That's kind of nice. We then have page campaign setup. Now this is where I am going to throw up the spoilers, because we're going to start talking about the actual campaign itself. And as I say, if you are intending to play the game, then this is the part where you might want to tap out. But as a games master, you'll probably want to stay and to learn a little bit more about what this campaign involves. So you have been warned. Alright, so we have a little bit of an intro here, because of course our players potentially have been having adventures in and around the region of Regis Castile, which of course is the region introduced in the core rules. So it gives a little bit of intro there. Tells us a little bit about what's happening in the Dark City. And basically, the Dark City have taken control of an excavator mech. This is a monstrous machine that is used to tunnel under the ground, and this would be typically to create, as it says, the intercontinental tunnels. However, the Dark City have put code into it which is making the machine come to the surface and destroy things on the surface, which of course is laying waste to huge swaths of land and anything that might be standing in its way. So this is the great mechanical threat that the people are facing, and that of course our players are going to have to try and stop. We find out a little bit about a Zeta core, which is to be found in the city of Emerta, which we looked at last night. We did bring out, I'm going to be swapping books here a little bit. but we have the Emerta Velo setting guide, and we did, of course, look at the map. There's actually there's a better image here for anyone who didn't watch Monday night's show. Then we have this brand new region to discover, and of course this campaign essentially introduces players to various elements within this region. You don't necessarily need this book to play the adventure, but of course if your players want to go off and explore somewhere else, then having this book of course is very, very useful. And for the most part, this is gives you a visual to use, so that people have an idea of what the region actually looks like. There's no map, I noticed, in the campaign guide, I guess because, of course, it kind of relies on this settings guide. And as I pointed out on Monday night's show, it would have been nice if there was a large fold-out map of this region to be able to share with the players. This art is wonderful, it's really, really nice, but only being the size of the book, it's a bit small, so having something larger would definitely be a bonus. Let's just put that there. So ultimately our players are going to travel to the city of Emerta, where they're going to find this Zeta core. This of course will contain ancient information, which of course is incredibly valuable to the players, but there is of course in that data there is the builder fragment, which is what has caused, or as far as the players are concerned, has caused the downfall of civilization. And so they've got to be very careful being able to get hold of this precious information and not releasing the builder upon other networked systems. Again, when I read this, I think obviously a lot of Skynet is going on. can't help but think of the Terminator as part of it. We also then have the Thralls themselves, who have been raiding settlements above the land. And we find out a little bit about a character. And she is called EXE1138. It's a sort of computer Borg designation name, and that's what all of the Thralls have, that kind of naming convention. And we get a little bit of an understanding of this particular character's NPC. She is hearing a voice in the back of her head, which is coming from this builder fragment. So she is being drawn to the city of Emerta, just like the player characters are being drawn there as well. So there's multiple actors involved in the campaign, all coming to the same location. We've got the players, we've got the mech, we've got the Thralls, so everything's going to happen at the city, which of course is a great way to introduce it to players themselves. So we have this bit of an overview, which is really helpful. I like this. Gives you a sort of, let's say, a bird's eye view of what's actually happening in the entirety of the game, setting things up. We then get a page here explaining how to make the most of the campaign, and it's suggesting that maybe your players may have some knowledge of the Dark City. If you've played the adventure within the core set, then you'll probably have already had some inkling about it. gives a little bit of guidance as far as how games masters might want to talk about the builder fragment and the entity's corruption. So spoilers on that. We have got the spoiler alert up there. So you may or may not want to be talking about the entity to your players. Depends if they have that knowledge as yet, or maybe this is something for them to still discover yet. I do like the fact of that throughout this book it highlights various pages within the Games Master Guide. So it is talking about locations that are part of the Regis Castile. I have got my Games Master book just here so we can reference those. So then, as we move on in, so that's pretty much the first 2 chapters. Everything else in the book, which is a good 150 plus pages, is essentially all of the adventure. And as it says, there are 12 adventures split into 3 parts. And what we're going to do is we're just going to look essentially at the first part, just to get an idea of what's going on. Because again, don't want to ruin too much of this. But needless to say, it is actually quite an exciting adventure. And as we spoke about on Monday night's show, it's very, very difficult not to make some comparisons to a popular video game out there. And so that really does help being able to picture the type of adventure that your characters are going to be going on when you put it into that sort of context. So there we go. So what do we have? Part 1, what lies beneath? So this section, and this is again a bit of a quick summary, which I find very, very helpful, because you can read this and then you get a good idea of what's happening in the actual adventure itself. And as we can see here, it's broken down into acts, 3 acts into each adventure, and then we have a bit of an epilogue, so we have an understanding of what the state of the world is, where the player characters are, what they've achieved, what hooks they have going into the next adventure. Again, I think people who have already played Dreams and Machines will be very familiar with this format. It's done in a way that makes it easy for new players to sort of understand and the flow of the adventure. So I found this quite easy to sort of work my way through. I do like the fact of the little call outs here, so that you know where to read out text to the players, but there are parts where you've kind of got to decipher it yourself. So like these bullet points here, this is talking to one of the characters in a settlement, and pretty much you might read a little bit of this text here. See, this doesn't have a call out yet. I would probably read all of that and then allow my players to have a little bit of a wander around the settlement and to get themselves into the flow of things before meeting this particular character who has various points that they need to convey. But I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit here. So here we go. So part 1 starts with the Thrall raids against the people of Regis Castile, and they're herding a voracious plant, the Acriti, to devour whole settlements. So Adventure 1, Day of the I am so rubbish with these names, you know I am. Acriti. Again, effectively, it's like Day of the Triffid. That's what it is. We've got some rivalry between archivists. We've got the Thrall leader, EXE1138, raids Padrol Tower. Padrol Tower was, of course, mentioned in the Games Master's Guide, but also in more detail in the Emerta Velo guide that we looked at on Monday. So this is kind of cool that we're bringing elements that were part of the Games Master's book into more detail, and then of course giving them a focus within the actual adventure. So we have got raids happening there, where the player characters see the carnage inflicted by the Dark City and the Excavator mech. So we get a hint of the big adversary, and we've also then got the Dark City inciting conflict between, I think it's the Padrol Tower and the Deepwood Archives, as they gain information on the sleeping Waker at New Mossgrove. And we've got agent infiltrators. So there's actually a lot going on. Again, what's nice is these points are broken down and highlighted by where they are in the various adventures, which is quite handy as a Games Master. And so, summarising, at the end of the section, the player characters have learned the existence of the Builder Fragment in a faraway city of Emerta, understand EXE 1138's objectives in searching it out, and have the means of tracking EXE 1138 as she and her people head north. So we do have a little bit of a summary. I think this is great. I think more games should have something like this at the very beginning of each of their sort of adventures, so that you've got that overview of what actually is going to happen during that particular part of the game. Good evening, Roger. How are you? We've just started taking a look at Echoes of an Ancient Enemy, the campaign book for Dreams and Machines. This is the follow-on from the settings guide that we looked at on Monday night. So, when we start off, we have all this text to read out, just to sort of set the scene for the campaign, and just to get everybody around the table in the mood as they return to the world of Dreams and Machines. And then we can actually start this first adventure, Day of the Acrity. I'm gonna go with that. We got a nice little bit of intro text, and again, breaking it down, we have a synopsis of the 3 acts. So it's repeating itself as so much as but going in a little bit more detail, so that again the Games Master is fully aware of what elements are being detailed in each of these acts, and I do appreciate that. And then we go into the actual adventure as a whole, and this is where again you'd potentially read out some of these elements. Now, whereas this was very clear to read out, this is less so. But, you know, like with any adventure, you want to read through it before you sit down and play, and maybe make some notes so you know that you might want to read this element out. Maybe I always use those little sticky markers that you can place and peel off so you don't ruin your book, and highlight the areas that you do want to use as reading text. So, looking at this adventure, it's Act 1. Player characters are asked to track down 2 young archivists who have travelled to the southern plains to study the local fauna and flora. They travel to, and again I'm picking up on all this sort of computer terminology in here, or I think it is anyway. Printempo. Is that like print temp? I don't know. The Printempo settlement, and follow the archivist's route into the plains. They find a panicked group of animals and the Acrity, let's go with that, scurrying north, chased by flames. The player characters rescue the youngsters in the face of the animals and the Acrity threat, and spot several Thralls driving the herd. Alright, Act 2. Tracking the Thralls south, the player characters find a Thrall camp. A furmore that leads deep underground, and a massive Acrity herd being driven north. Here we go. Tab 2852 and his Thralls attack the player characters, prevent a warning getting back to Printempo, while the rest drive the herd mercilessly north and west. Once on this path, the herd will only pick up pace, heading in a straight line directly towards Printempo. And Act 3, racing to warn Printempo of the impending doom, the player characters must find a way to stop or divert the herd before it wipes out the settlement from the face of the earth. Alright, so that's actually, it's a relatively simple setup here, isn't it? So, what we can do, let's just grab this one. So this is, of course, the Games Master's Guide. And again, we've got the map here of Regis Castile. I know that we are in location 1, which is New Mossgrove. And, of course, as soon as the campaign guide was mentioning locations, I wanted to jump to a map to go and check it out and to see, well, what type of road are my players going to be going down. Printempo is number 24, little camp just here. So we do have this nice road going through some hills here, this region, and there's the settlement. Again, I think we're missing an opportunity of having a wonderful map of a large map to be able to put down on the table and to be able to enjoy working through, and especially being a hex-based map. Again, I don't even think that in the digital version of the book you get a separate PDF for this that you could maybe print out. So that's a real shame. Now, I did also have a look because I felt I needed to know. I think I've gone wrong way. Here we go. Because I wanted to find the various creatures that it mentioned. So here we go. Here's the Acrity, which is your kind of your Triffid. Rogue is saying we like maps. We do. We like creatures as well. So we got the Acrity, and I know that there are some horses. But we're also going to meet Flat Top, which is a tough, aggressive, herbivorous mammal. Flat tops resemble large mountain goats, but for the way their skulls are thickened and hardened into a solid crest dotted with bony projections, dense enough to pulverize rock. That reminds me of those kind of dinosaurs that do the headbutting. And kind of makes sense, doesn't it? So, a goat that does headbutting, not good. All right, let's go back. Dealing with many things. So, we have our summary of what we're going to do. We have a little bit of text that we can read out, which sets the scene. Market day in New Mossgrove, and of course we do have a map of New Mossgrove from the Games Master book. And we meet our first NPC, who's an archivist, Alta Tomera. Yep, let's go with that. Alta. So Alta has a few points. Basically, he's asking the player characters to go and find these two young archivists who have gone out into the southern plains to this Printempo to go and take a look at the flora and fauna. So we can do that. We then get a little bit of text as far as what the journey is going to be like. We can have a look at the map and we can see, and it'd be, as I said, if we had a big map, that'd be great. So we know that we're going to have a couple of herds here. As I said, small herds of wild horses and flat tops, some wolf hunters. Didn't look at that, should have looked at those. We can do some tests to basically see if we notice the actual herds, we don't want to intimidate them, otherwise they might attack. And then, ultimately, we reach the settlement. And as we go through this, you'll find that this layout is the same across all the adventures. So once you've learned kind of one section, you'll know how to do the others. So we have a nice map. We've got the main locations detailed with a little bit of text there to add a bit of flavour. We then have a section on notable residents, which we have a little bit of background on them. And then if our players did ask about the two young archivists, there's a little bit of text to tell us what their response might be. But we do have this naturalist down at the bottom here, and so if we seek this person's help, we have to do an insight or resolve talk test. Then we do have a couple of points here where she is able to assist. We now have a location to go. Where are we going? Oh gosh, it's another name. Oh, she advised to make use of a small oasis called it's the Gulch. We're going to call it the Gulch. Which is halfway between the settlement and Old Smoke Mountains. Let's find... Does this actually... Can we find it in here? So we know it's on 24. Was the... There. What's 20? I don't think it's on here, so it doesn't go down into that amount of detail. What's 27? Herding grounds for the Acrity. There's 27. 24, 20. 29. The refuge. Ah, they're 27. Oh, okay. So that makes sense. You see, again, I like the fact of this adventure is bringing elements that's already here. So it makes sense that these are being driven straight to the settlement there. So we're assuming that it's going to be around this area here that our archivists are lost. So here we go, and because there are fires being set by the Thralls, we've got a variety of different creatures that we may find on the plains. We get to the Gulch. If we do a search, then we've got a variety of different things we might find. And then we see smoke on the horizon. And so we've got a small herd of Acrity made up of 30 individuals. So 3 Thralls riding tamed bargs, trying to round them up. This is really a strange kind of idea. It's essentially people herding trees. It's near enough like the Ents. Except I don't think that they are sort of speaking trees. So we got some details on the flat tops, the herd, the Thrall riders. And basically, we're going to see... So we got the two characters. They're actually trapped within the herd, so we've got to try and get them out. And ultimately we see the Thrall riders, and that's basically it as far as this first act. So it's not too much really. It's a nice little introduction just to get things started. But now, when we start Act 2, then potentially our players will, well, it's not potentially, they're more than likely going to do so, aren't they? They're going to follow the Thralls tracks to learn more about them. Again, we're getting a little intro here. It says, however, they may decide to return the archivists to the settlement. Which then, of course, a guardian in the settlement asks them to go and do tracking of the Thralls. So it's taking into account either direction that players might want to go to and do. So then the Thralls have established a temporary surface camp in the foothills of the Old Smoke Mountains. And are gathering a huge herd of Akiri Akriti. I mean, I'm never going to get it right. 5 kilometers to the east of that. It's a total of 6 Barg riders, 15 Thrall warriors, and Tab 2852. I like these names. So, a little bit of detail on this mountain camp. Bit of understanding as to what Tab 2852's plans are. To which we then have a little bit of stat block here. Details on the actual herd itself, and that's basically it. So we have basically got to take out the Thrall leader and the other Thralls who are on those, what were they called? Barg riders. And then finally, Act 3. This is to save the settlement and stop the herd. So, characters must convince the settlers of Printempo to save themselves and find a way to save the village from the Akriti. So, quick thinking PCs might want to see if there's anyone else who can help. There's a Sentinel Tower a few days' travel away. Oh gosh. And the inhabitants of Printempo have already sent aid. Unlikely that Sentinels will return in time. So, Harbingers of Doom, people of Temple will take some convincing to abandon their homes. If I saw a wall of moving trees coming towards me, I think I'd want to give up my home and save myself. So, we've got to convince the Guardian of this particular settlement that these rampaging trees do present a clear and present danger. As it says here, the PCs already know that the Akriti herd can strip places clean of anything in their way, and that they fear fire. So this is a way of using our knowledge of them to basically try and help save the actual settlement, and then it does give us a number of suggestions as far as how our players might stop the herd. So, you know, I think they've probably worked out most of the reasonable ideas for that. If a player takes a look at one of these, then you've got a few ideas to sort of work from. And then ultimately, we have an epilogue. So we have an idea as the games master as to where the player characters actually are, what they have achieved, what is the next step before we move on then to the next adventure. And again, this goes through in exactly the same way. Little intro, synopsis of the various acts, any readout text highlighted, and that's pretty much it, working your way through. As it said, the majority of these adventures are designed to flow one into the other. Some of them you might be able to play independently, or you might allow your players to go and venture somewhere else and then come back to this adventure. But to be honest, I think once you get started with this, you'd want to just work your way through it. It's all part of a greater story, and I don't think you'd want to get too distracted from the narrative. So there's 4 adventures to the first part, and once you have done those, then again we have a little summary for part 2, which sets the scene for the future adventures. And this is where the players now have started to move away from Regis Castile, and in fact are starting to adventure within the region of Emerta Velo. And I think we're heading up this way during the course of several adventures, before ultimately, in the final part, we will be going to the city of Size, Emerta itself. But within this second part, this is where we are going to encounter the excavator mech, which of course is bringing so much devastation. I think, do we have a picture of it? I think we do. Of course, here we go. So imagine this is a huge mechanical... I want to think of it like a centipede kind of mechanical creature, but of course it's got these great boring heads to it, hasn't it? So that's quite something. But as we try and divert the mech, we're going to run into the Thralls again. We're going to learn more about what their intentions are. Ultimately, we head... What's it called? It's number 20, isn't it? It is Dream City. And then finally we get to part 3, and this is where we're actually going into the city of Emerta itself. So we've had a little bit of a tease about the region. Now we're in the city, and of course, once we have had our adventures here in the city itself, this is, I guess, where you'd want to have the settings guide to be able to go and explore the city in greater detail, because the adventure itself is only looking at one location. And of course, as we saw on Monday, there's many locations to discover. But I believe the intention is to create other adventures or scenarios that will look at some of these other locations within the city of Size. So I think it was Queen... Let me get it right. I can't say her name. Pasifi? Gosh, let's find out what it is. Number 20. There's a bit of a Roman sort of feel to this city. Now I'm looking at it again. Where is it? 26. So the Queen's Lair is a Zeta core or data center located under an underground park. The Zeta core is deep underground with only 7 bronze statues of Theseus fighting 6 minotaurs visible on the surface. Okay, not necessarily Roman, Greek in that case then. The Zeta core, damaged during the war and cut off from the outside world, houses a fragment of the Builder. The fragment is desperate to flee from this prison. So, a little bit of a tease. So, again, I suppose this book itself has spoilers for things that your players might not be aware of at that time. Okay, so hopefully that gives a general idea of how this campaign plays out. Again, as we've spoken about numerous times, as looking through Dreams and Machines, I can't help but think of the similarity of a certain video game, and I actually find that has helped a great deal, because it's helped me visualize this world. And of course this is its own thing, but in a sort of futuristic setting, whereas that game is in a more primitive hunter-gatherer setting. But I can see the similarities, and I like that. And so, in fact, I was playing the game recently, and I went down into a technological site, and so having read through this, it's like, yes, I can actually visualize that now, and I can add an element to, if I was describing this to my players, I can call on those visuals and use it to embellish my descriptions of this place and give an idea of what it might be like. So I've actually really enjoyed working with this hand in hand. I also then like the fact of the mystery that is being slowly but surely divvied out to the players and to games masters as to what the greater story is, which again I think is quite interesting. Not something I want to sort of spoil from the bits that we've already sort of read about, but there's more information to come over the coming books, and I think that's what's going to keep people hooked on this particular game, because everybody likes a bit of a mystery, and I'm glad that they didn't reveal necessarily everything all up front, that there's going to be something that's going to keep on going. Now granted, of course, as a games master you might have taken your story in a slightly different direction, but there's no reason why you can't continue to do that, or maybe interweave some of the ideas that they are putting on into these campaign books into your own games. So as a whole, I like this adventure, and I like the region that they have introduced, and I guess ultimately I'd look forward to seeing more of both. I believe that they are going to spend some more time in Emerta Velo over the next couple of releases, but I can't wait to see other regions. I am going to say it again, I really do wish that they did big maps. I think that would be so cool, especially considering that they have the rules for their hexploration. So to be able to have a hex map being able to explore, I think that would work really well. So it is a shame. Maybe there's going to be a map pack. I know that they did something like that for one of their other games within the 2D20 system set. So maybe that's a future release. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. So there you go. That is Dreams and Machines, Echoes of an Ancient Enemy. Now, next week, we're actually going to have 3 shows during the week. We're going to do a Monday, a Wednesday, and a Friday. And we are going to be traveling to Middle Earth. We're going to be taking a look at the One Ring, and a couple of releases that have been out for a while that are new to me. We're going to be taking a look at Ruins of the Lost Realm. So we're going to be discovering Eriador and the city of Farbad. So that's going to be fun. At the moment I am listening, reading to the Silmarillion. So this has been a welcome adventure into an area that I wasn't particularly familiar with. So maybe you're not either. So I think we'll have a lot of fun. We're also going to be taking a look at a campaign set within that region. So much like what we've just been doing with Dreams and Machines. And then at the end of the week, we're going to be taking a look at a brand new release for the One Ring, which focuses in on the elven sanctuaries within Middle-earth and the Rings of Power. So that is our week next week. It is very much a Tolkien-themed week, and so I'm very much looking forward to that. So, thank you so much for joining me this evening. I hope that you did enjoy taking a look at Dreams and Machines, Echoes of an Ancient Enemy, and I look forward to future releases for us to explore in the world of Evera Prime. Have a wonderful rest of the week and weekend, and look forward to seeing you next week. But until then, bye for now.